working on our clay tile. This is a student example of the clay tile here. Remember that the goal is to build in 3D, not just make a picture on the clay. You're building sculpturally in 3D on top of your tile. All right. In this video, you are going to learn how to roll out a slab using your paper template and how to make your slab big enough for what you need. So the first thing I want to show you is I have a couple pictures here. These are my reference images for my tile. So this is just a rough sketch of my tile. I wanted it to be oval and I wanted it to be able to hang on the wall. So I've added this hole at the top and I'm going to use some texture to kind of camouflage it. So what this is going to function as is this is going to hang on the wall, and then I've got this big mushroom that is going to be kind of like growing off of the tile as if it were a tree. The background is going to be this tree texture that you can see here. So I've got this tree texture, and then I'm going to build some mushroom shelves off of it, and then I might add some snails. And then for texture, I've been looking at how trees grow this really cool sort of mossy texture on it. So that's my plan. I've printed out some images, and then I've also got my overall sketch so I know where to put things. And then I've made my template. So I want to make sure that my template is at least 5 inches across here. Anything less and it would be a little bit too small. So you want it to be at least 5 inches across. Mine is much larger going up and down, but the 5 inches should be good. If you're working at home, you only have a set amount of clay, so you're going to want to make sure that you have enough clay. So if you're doing a big tile, think about, will I have enough clay to sculpt all the things that I need to on top? So if I'm doing my tile, will I have enough clay, to make the structures that I need to in my artwork? All right, so I've cut out my template. How I made this is I took a circle and I traced it, and then I folded it in half and figured out I wanted an oval, so I just went about 1 inch above, folded it into quarters like I'm making a snowflake, and then I cut my oval so that it would be the same on all 4 sides. So that what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wedged clay. This is a big ball of clay. I'm not going to obviously use it all for my tile because this is about maybe a little bit less than what you guys have in your bags. But I'm going to use this to roll out my tile. You want to roll out a lot of clay because what you don't want is to have a clay tile where you get your template right on top of it and it's too small and you have to roll it out again. All right, so I'm taking a big amount of clay. What I want to do first is I'm just going to slap the clay into a pancake. Notice I'm not picking up the clay and slamming it on the canvas. That creates dust, but you're going to want to make a sort of pancake with the clay before you roll it. You want to kind of squish it down a little bit before it's rolled out. Okay, so I've got my sort of pancake. Now what I want to do is I want to make my pancake probably as wide as the smallest piece. So this is wider than my smallest point. And you want that because as you're rolling with your dowel or a rolling pin or slab roller, you're going to want to make sure that you have enough clay. And you want to make sure that as you're rolling your clay, you're able to have it hit all of the widths. Now, if I'm rolling just this way, it's only going to stretch this way. If I'm switching it, if I need it to be round, I can keep switching and moving my clay around and rolling it in different directions. And what that does is that helps my clay got sticky clay, it might help to flip it over and do some rolling that way. Now my goal is to get this to about 1/4 inch thick. Your dowel is actually a pretty good measurement. So you want it to be around the thickness of your dowel, not much thicker and not much thinner. So you want it to be around the thickness of your dowel. All right, so you guys missed just a little bit. What I did was I had my big slab, I transferred it to this tray so I could move it around. But I got my clay slab to about the thickness of this dowel, maybe a little bit thicker. So if I needed to roll it a little thicker, which I'm gonna do on here, I'll transfer it back. So I'm rolling it a little thinner. I don't want it quite as thick as I had it before. And if I'm rolling it thinner, it means it's going to stretch out. I'm flip-flopping the way that I roll it. Going this way, and then going back. Okay. So I think that's a pretty good thickness. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I need to trace out my template. Hopefully you're going to have a little bit more room than I do. When I'm tracing my template, actually, I'll give it a quick smooth first. You want to do this because smoothing it can sometimes squish out your tile a little bit. So if you do this after, it won't be the shape that you originally cut out. So you want to smooth it out first. Okay, I'm going to move this onto my tray because I'm going to be moving my stuff around quite a bit. Your template, once you have your clay here, you can kind of push it on just a little bit, really lightly smooth it. And what it'll do is it'll start to stick to your clay. Then you can trace it with your needle tool, a pencil, or a paper clip works too, any pointed thing. And you're just tracing it out before you use your knife to cut it. Ta-da! I like to put some cuts in the sides to create sort of like a release for my clay because I don't trust myself to do a whole line. Clay cuts like butter, so you don't have to do any sawing. You're just taking your tool and then pull away the clay when you're done. And my release points allow me to pull clay away as I go. There we go. And what I'll do now is I'll just smooth out my edges. I like to have them nice and smooth when I start working. This also helps you see how well you did wedging. If you see a bunch of air bubbles, that's a better one. If you see a bunch of air bubbles in the side, that means it's probably not wedged. But if you see a nice smooth side, it's probably wedged nicely. And that is cutting from your clay slab.